Yes. 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 Barber College Success, brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cutz Academy, JC, and my guy himself live in person.
Ammi Fields, Am I Your Barber from Marion, Virginia, Ammi's Barbershop.
But guess what? We got a special guest. We got two special guests coming from Marion, Virginia. Two. Introduce yourself, miss.
I'm Emily Fields, and this is Azariah Fields.
And that's Ammi's wife and his kid on their first podcast.
It's Azariah's second podcast.
Yeah, his second, Mr. Z's second. How amazing. Boom. Barber College Success brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cutz Academy, JC, Crown Cutz Academy, Bristol, Virginia, and Craig's Crown Cutz downtown, JC. Spreading love the Tri-City way is one way, but spreading love the Crown Cutz way is the only way. Right, Em?
That's right.
There we go. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Today we got a special episode for you guys. It's going to be big. Most people look at barber school as a sacrifice, but barber school is not a sacrifice. Barber school is an investment. And we're going to break it down for you guys and let you guys see how it's an investment. That's something that's going to help your future just elevate. And the more you look at it as a sacrifice, the more obstacles come up in your way and the harder it is to finish school. When you look at it as an investment, what you put in is what you're going to get out. You're going to get a return on your investment. That's where you take off. Rest in peace.
Take off. You gotta throw that in there. Yeah, I mean, and thankfully my wife has been with me to help make some of those investments, and having a spouse support me through this whole thing has made it a whole lot easier. Some people don't have that. A lot of people are doing it by themselves, and I know that's probably difficult for sure. And which we had our own challenges making this investment into becoming a barber. And she really was the one that kind of talked me into it. Honestly, like she had to talk me off the edge or talk me on the edge. I don't know which one, but
I talked you into it, but you invested in it.
well, we both did.
And that's what we're going to talk about, the investment, because people think it's a sacrifice, and you're like, man, you invested into your future. It's a wonderful career. So I had a conversation with a student, and I know most students will always have this type of decision in their life when they come to school, work and come to school. And the investment that you have to put in. Z, you got something to say? I hear you, Z. That's cool. Be on the mic. Be on the mic, brother. Most people, their career is the barber industry. That's the hope. That's what they're going into for a long, good, prosperous, lifelong career that's going to take you across the country, across the world, where you're going to be doing wonderful things and just great things. And a lot of students, they miss school, they come to school late, and they don't realize how that affects their development into being a master barber.
And I think it's a maturity thing as well, because sometimes, you have younger students that are more mature than others, and you have older students that are less mature than younger students. So, like, it's a level of maturity to want to give your all to something, to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And don't get me wrong, things come up, family issues, car problems, life issues. So there are going to be obstacles that can get in your way of accomplishing your goal. But I'm not talking about those things, because I think some students, 20 to 30% of the time, when they miss school, they can come to school.
Yeah. And there was times when I was an apprentice that there was times where I thought about not going to work, because like when I first became an apprentice, nobody wanted me to cut their hair in the shop.
Right.
So I would go to the shop, and she remembers it would be, days on end where nobody would let me cut their hair. I mean, it'd be maybe a week straight that I could not get a haircut. And that was very discouraging. I remember calling her one day, and I was sitting outside the barbershop. I was miserable because it was a shop full of people and nobody wanted me to cut their hair. And she's like, "You're here. I mean, this is what you want to do."
And that's what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And that's where the investment was coming in, because you knew, you being his biggest supporter, if you can just get him through this time, he'll reap the investment that he's putting his time into.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he worked hard and invested, hours of study and time. I just encouraged him, not to give up. He put in that investment, and, he would reap the benefits of that, with time.
And you know what? That brings up like a great point. If you can find someone who can help you, hold you accountable while you're in school, that would help. If you can find someone, have someone to remind you what is your why you signed up for school in the first place. Or even if you can write it down before you start school, those two things, write it down and have someone who can hold you accountable. I think that can help you go back to your mission.
And I remember how to do with the apprenticeship, how to do my online classwork. And at the time, she would come home and be like, "What you doing?" I'd be on a game or something. She's like, "What you doing?" Like, shoot, I'm trying to get this 2K in. And she's like, "Don't you got some schoolwork to do? Don't you got to get on your milady? Like, don't you got to do that right now?" And it convicted me to get on it and do it.
Do you remember that, Em?
Yeah, I remember. I had to stay on him.
But you know what I'm saying? That is so good because everyone needs a coach. And in a sense, you was his coach. You was his mentor to let him know, hey, you invested in this. And I believe in you to invest in this thing that you want to invest in because, believe it or not, it's going to be fruitful.
Yeah. And I feel like, I had been through school and invested hours staying up all night and, just working hard to get to where I was in the point in my career. So, I knew that it could be rewarding. So I just had to encourage him to do the same. And now he's reaping the rewards of that as well.
So a couple of things I hear students say that we're just going to talk about. So one student said, what comes to your mind when you hear a student say, well, I'm not getting paid to come to school. So when you start off with that sentiment, I'm not getting paid to come to barber school, why even start barber school if you have that mindset?
Yeah. And I've heard that from a student like, oh, my job, I got work hours, the job, I don't get paid. I've heard that before from a student. So it's like, why did you sign up for this?
Right.
And not only that, why are you paying for this? Like, not only are you not going to work, but you're also paying for it. Then you knew that before you came here. So in my mind, I feel like it's just an excuse sometimes for like an insecurity.
Right.
Or for, sometimes people don't want to admit to their mistakes. Like if I miss a day, like I knew one student who would complain about having to work because he missed days. And when somebody had to hold him accountable to it, he was like, oh, well, I don't make no money. It was like an excuse for him, like right. like a defense mechanism.
Did they pay you guys to go to you went to nursing school, right?
Yes.
Did they pay you guys to go to nursing school?
No, we paid to go to school.
Shout out to Joe Biden for deferring financial aid payments.
But you know what I'm saying? I still have to say this. When a student make a comment like that, doctors don't get paid to go to school. Now, there's some instances like the GI Bill with the federal government, and if you're in the military, they'll pay you through your GI Bill to go to school.
That's a substantial investment that they made, though. Like, 4 years of being in the military.
Or even more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in some instances like that, there are probably some more instances where they'll pay you, but more often than not, if you're setting up a career for yourself and you have to shell out money for that career, you're not getting paid.
No.
It's the invest.
Right. You have to invest in yourself and, invest in your career. And like I said, later on, you'll reap the benefits of your initial investment.
And I'm happy that students have jobs. You should have a job where you could be able to multitask and go to school at the same time because that teaches so much responsibility. It teaches so many things when you can handle both. Because once you have that job or that career that you want, things are just much easier because it's almost like having a family and having a job. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's part of it too, because some people have to juggle going to school and having a family. But when students who don't have kids say, man, I have to have a job, I understand that. I respect that. Get that job. Work that job.
Well, also in the grand scheme of things, when you become a barber, you're your own boss. So you have to hold yourself accountable.
Right.
Nobody's going to say, you need to come to work. I mean, if you're in the booth rent, they're going to be like, if you have a shop owner, they're not going to, as long as you're paying your rent, they're not necessarily going to care if you come to work.
Right.
As long as you're paying your rent. So it's just like going to college too. Like the professor doesn't care if you come to school. He's going to mark you absent and keep going on with his lecture. So like you have to be disciplined yourself to handle all those things that come with it.
But you're not getting no return on your investments if you don't do those things as far as go to school, go to class. You're not getting a return on your investment. And your investment is to be a master barber. And who wants to take a risk and invest in something without a return?
Yeah, nobody.
Right.
So the next thing I hear about is, well, I got this job and I've never missed a day at my job and a part-time job that I'm working after school and I go early and I leave late. And which is cool. Again, I'm not knocking no one who has a job, no matter what the job is. If it's a server, if it's a dishwasher, if you're working at the car dealership, wherever, have your job and work it. But that same energy you putting into that job that's going to be something part-time in your life for a year opposed to your career, you should put that same energy into your career too as well.
If not more energy.
Or if not more.
Exactly, especially if that's your long-term goal. Right now, like Craig likes to say, the long-hanging fruit. Like, yeah, the serving job, your part-time job is important to feed you right now.
Of course.
But long-term, which is more important? You're paying the money to go to school. You're using this time to go to school. You're using these hours. That should be the priority. That should be your priority.
And in most schools, as it is, when you miss school and you have to stay over your time, your contract, there's an overage fee.
Yeah, and students also. I mean, I guess where they go to school and us as instructors and barbers, we are just naturally personable people. They feel almost slighted when they have to pay more money, but it's a business. You are responsible. If you don't go to school, you're still required to pay for the school that you're there, or even more so if you don't go.
So another excuse that I heard, I'm like, it's not even an excuse. Oh, my girlfriend's birthday is tomorrow. I'm not coming to school. I don't think you should even say that.
No.
What do you think about that? Should someone even come out their mouth and say something like that?
I think you should, take it serious. And, I mean, if you have a job, you can't just not go in one day because you have, something that's came up or anything. So
let me ask you a question. When you went to nursing school, or what school did you go to?
Well, I got my associate's degree from Withville, and then I went to King University and got my bachelor's degree, and then to ETSU for my master's degree.
Okay, so you went to school on a level that's exceeded barber school, which is barber school. You go there for 10 months, 10 and a half months, you get your license, 10 and a half months, 11, 12 months max if you go full time. So you understand and know what it takes to go to a school and invest yourself. When you were in school, were there students that you could remember who didn't take it as serious, and you were sitting there thinking to yourself, why?
Yeah. I think there were definitely times where students didn't show up. Students that, didn't follow through and they just gave up. And I'm sure there's circumstances to everything.
Yeah, it is. So,
yeah.
Do you remember any instances specifically where you're like, man, what's going on? Do you remember any time, or you were just so laser focused, just like, man, I'm not even here to think about nobody else?
Well, and a lot of time, for my master's degree, I did most of that online. So my sister and I kind of encouraged, so we weren't in the classroom setting.
Right.
But yeah, I did actually go to the campus when I got my associate's degree. Yeah.
So again, you did mention a great point. You did have someone to hold you accountable, be like, hey,
Yeah, we definitely held each other accountable, and it's always good when you have somebody else, that can encourage you along the way.
And I'll say this about my wife, man, and I watch her go through her challenges at school. She went through, got her BSN and her master's degree, and she worked as a nurse at a hospital on night shift.
And have kids.
And was pregnant through the whole thing. We had 2 children back to back, so she was pregnant through the whole process.
Right.
So, I mean, as far as an investment, and she was here by chance that we put her on the podcast, but in retrospect of it, she put in every second of the day. I don't think there was a free second of the day that she wasn't doing schoolwork, she wasn't working, or she wasn't handling a child. I mean, I don't even remember her sleeping now that I think about it.
I just feel like if you want something bad enough, then you'll do what you have to invest that time, to make that time. Because in the end, you get a good reward.
You're hoping to reap the benefits.
Yes, for sure.
So the times, I say this, and we say all of that to say this. The students who are out there who are having a hard time coming to school, we understand those things happen. Personal issues happen, life happens, especially we in the mountains, East Tennessee. There's going to be snow, there's going to be icy roads. There's going to be so many things. It snows like half an inch. They're closing the streets down.
Shut it all down.
So we have to prepare for those things in advance, no matter what type of geographical area you're in. There's some type of climate that can delay your process and come to school, some type of climate alienation. So the point is, Don't just miss school because you want to, because you're tired, because you stayed up all night playing video games, or you just BSing some time off. Because there's going to be some time that you can't control, that you have to miss.
Right.
And that's going to add up.
Right.
I mean, and I was thinking about the other day, you can almost treat it like a game for yourself when you're going to school. Make it fun. Make learning fun. When you make learning fun, you don't want to miss days.
Yeah. And then that's the thing, like, especially with barbering, where there's just so much overwhelming information when you first come to school. I don't see how you could be bored. Like, it's hard for me to think about not wanting to be eager to learn because it's just overwhelming when you first start.
Well, I guess for me, school was so fun. Even I wasn't a scholar growing up, elementary, middle school, whatever, but I felt like if I missed a day, I missed out on some type of gossip,
Yeah.
something that my friends did that day in elementary school or middle school. So I can't remember myself ever missing a day in elementary school.
Yeah, well, my parents made me go every day. So I probably would have missed a few, but I know what you're saying. I've never felt that way in school, but I felt that way in the barbershop.
Right.
Like if you missed the bar, hey, so-and-so came in and did this and did that, or said this and did that, and I was like, oh man, I wish I'd worked that day, you know,
Right.
or like, you know, and then I felt that way, especially when you enjoy something.
Yeah, so the thing is, if you're putting your time and your effort into something like barbering, that you're thinking that, man, this is my career, this is what's going to make me the most money, this is going to put me over the edge, level up, you should understand that you can't, when you miss days, you're missing a part of your development.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, if you miss a day, you could miss something that could help you out later on down the road. Just like, you know, in school, if I missed out on a certain lecture, that could be something that helped me take care of a patient, you know, in a certain situation.
Great point. I remember going back to college, I was in economics class, accounting. And I had surgery in college where I tore my meniscus playing college football. So I missed like 2 days. And I went back to the accounting class and I felt like I was lost. I was lost. I had to withdraw.
Yeah.
I was just lost. I'm telling you, I was lost, dude. I mean, so it's a great point you brought up. I mean, when you miss days, you miss out on the development of your career. And you can't get that back because something that was said that day will never be repeated again.
Right.
Because if you go back, and I'm thinking, if you record every lesson that everyone teaches, there's something that someone adds different to every lesson.
Yeah, it's not even about the information. Sometimes it's just how it's presented.
Right.
Sometimes, and you know, if they had somebody else say it, you know, sometimes you have the same teacher coming every day in, day out, and you're kind of used to how they speak. And then somebody else comes in and say something, and you're like, whoa, like that totally changed my whole thought process on how I was thinking. And that could change your career path for you.
And then too, like most schools, they have like presenters or different people coming to the school. What if one day your favorite platform artist come to your school, you didn't come that day? How would you feel?
That'd be hurt. That would hurt.
Why? I mean, hurt for what? You're not used. You don't come.
Yeah. I just, you know, and I think about the times like if I could have readily met somebody or like met somebody that was, because for me personally, like in a shop as an apprentice, the barber world felt really small at first until I went to like a hair show and met, you know, guys that were doing more with it than just sitting behind a chair.
Right.
And that changed my entire perspective. It made me feel like there's a whole world out here. Like I feel like I could bust out and grow because of that.
Right.
And if you're able to meet somebody and come in, and we bring people in to speak to the schools, local barbers that are doing big things, or you know, and it really changes people's perspective.
So I mean, even to that effect, when you missing time when someone special comes in and do like a great demonstration on something that you're not great at, that's one of your weaknesses. Or you just leave early because you just want to leave early. And you're not working on your strengths, your weaknesses. Because most barbers, their whole focus once they get that fade down pat is almost just like glistening and just like admiring a fade that you can already do.
Yeah.
While you're in school. Why not focus on your weaknesses?
And that seems like that's the holy grail for students is when they come to the school and learn getting the blurriest fade, you know. And I think about like I don't even like hearing that word anymore, like fade. It is so overused. It's like probably the most misused word in hair cutting.
Because everyone's fade is going to look the same after a while.
Yeah.
So the perception is, go to school. Don't miss days. Give your all, because barbering is not a sacrifice. The school is not no matter what school you go into, to be a lawyer, to be a doctor, it's not a sacrifice. It's something that you want to do. It's an investment. Yeah, unless, and I know sometimes some people, probably your parents or a friend would suggest a career for you to go into, and that's not something that you want to do. But if it's something that you want to do, give it your all.
And that's what happened with me. They were like, you know, my wife and my brother-in-law were like, you should come barbering. And I was like, I hadn't even thought about barbering. I was like, I don't know about barbering, you know, like it was just complete off the wall subject for me. But I knew once I gave up my job that I had security, I had salary, I had time off, I had tenure, I had, you know, health insurance. Like I knew once I gave that up, there was no halfway doing this. Like why would I go and give everything up just to give 20% or 50%, you know? And that, to me, it just never made sense for me not to do that. So I was, from day one, even when people weren't in the shop, I was sweeping, I was cleaning, because I'm fully invested.
But that's why you are where you are right now. And you know what I mean? And that's
you know, the more that he's invested, the more opportunities that he's had. I've definitely seen that.
So, and that's a great point. The more you are invested, the more opportunities that comes your way. Because when you're not invested, people, you're not trustworthy.
Yeah.
If they pass you the baton, they feel like you might drop it.
Right.
So it's important to be invested. There's this one student, I can go back to him, and he comes every day. And he has, I think, the most clientele built in the school that I've seen so far.
Ever. In Johnson City?
Yes.
Shout him out.
No, I'm not going to put his name out there because somebody might hate on him. But I mean, his tips upwards like $200 to $400 a week.
That's crazy. And you don't make anything off the haircuts in school. So it's just the tip. You're just getting the extra coming off
So
of it.
was that saying to me that just by his investment of coming every day, treating people well, his consultation, and wanting to just be the best at all his haircuts. And if it's anybody that someone shouldn't go to in the beginning, it was him, because he was shaky, his hands were shaking.
Yeah.
But he overcame that. His hand don't shake no more. And he built clientele while his hands were shaking.
And that's a testament too, because like if you're really doing what you're supposed to be doing, you can make it in school. You can make a living. That part-time money you're making, you could make in school if you're really doing it how you're supposed to do it. And I've seen people do it too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how exactly, I ain't counted their tips, but I've seen people whose chair never stopped spinning.
Yes.
That you had it, like Jordan, for example. I had to tell Jordan, quit. Jordan, man, you got to quit, take a break. You know what I'm saying? Take 2 weeks off from cutting.
But when you hear students are getting like $80 tip, $100 tip, it's a direct correlation from their investment. And if you're getting that in school, you're leaving out of school $50, $60 tip, $70 tip a day, that can happen. And if you invest yourself even more, you probably can get $100, upwards $110, because
People can see that.
people will see that, and people want to invest in you. Because I've seen a student just got a single $100 tip in school. And I'm like, man, that's amazing.
I was in a shop 3 years where I saw a $100 tip. You know what I'm saying? Like it took me a long time just to see one of
But
those.
the point is, when people see you're consistent, they know that you're there. And they know the investment that you, not the sacrifice, I was going to say, but the investment that you're putting in for your education, people really like to see that. People love to see the underdogs.
And that's one of the biggest blessing I've gotten since I've started opening my shop. It's just people coming out the woodworks just to tell me, like, just show up and be like, hey, man, you know, you inspired me.
That's big.
People, and I'm not saying that to toot my own horn, it just blew me away that I didn't realize how many people were watching me.
Right.
And and a lot of them are people that I didn't even know were watching, you know, but they're coming out saying, hey, man, you know, I'm so happy you're doing this.
Yes.
It makes, you know, I appreciate you doing this. Good luck to you. I hope this works out. You know, I hope you win. And that has been the biggest blessing about the whole thing.
But that's the investment Emily talks about. She's seeing the progress the process
Right.
from day one.
And he didn't get there overnight. It's taken time, but it's he's starting to reap the benefits of it.
And it's something that we go back and we talked about in previous podcasts. You can't reap and sow at the same time.
No. Gotta spread that seed first.
You know what I mean? And most people accept to reap what they sow right away. You can't do it. You have to build it up.
Right.
And building it up is sowing. And then you'll reap it.
There's definitely times where you wish you could like make it happen. Like even now, with the starting a shop, I'm like, sometimes I feel like I want to be further ahead for various reasons, but you can't rush the process. You have to go, like Craig says, it's a cycle of life you have to go through. You got to do all that.
And most students, and I understand when they get discouraged, they don't have their kits yet, and they just want their kit because they're seeing someone next to them doing this really good fit, and they're like, I can do that too if I just get the opportunity. But you have to learn certain things to get the opportunity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And everybody progresses differently.
But most people don't see that
Right.
because everybody tends to compare themselves to someone else.
That's human nature.
And that is. Yeah. So that's why it was good for your perspective to come on, because you offer different perspective, but it's the same thing that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Because most people think that they're only going through the certain situations in barber school.
Right.
But all the schooling you went to, you had to invest in yourself.
Right.
You had to invest in something.
Right.
And now the benefits of that
Right.
is overflowing.
Right.
Yeah. What's up, Z?
He's hype, man. I'm trying to get him some energy out, but he's hype.
Yeah, Z is good, man.
He's just happy to be on here.
So again, going to barber school is not a sacrifice. Don't look at it as a sacrifice. Look at it as an investment. If it's something that you want to do, this industry is going to reward you tenfold. You're going to be around people. You're going to meet people in this industry. You're going to do some things that's going to be so fun, and it's going to take you over the edge to realize, man, that time during school went by so fast. And 11 months to have a career to take you over the edge.
And initially it might seem like a long time, but it's over before you know it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you miss it.
Yeah. And I was speaking to one of my students again last week, and he told me this past year he made 110
Wow. Grinding.
just being a barber.
Yeah, the return on investment is definitely there. And there's no cap, like there's no ceiling. Like sometimes you get a job and like what's the next level of your job? You go to like mid-management and then you go to supervisor. And then sometimes it feels like there's a wall in between you, but there's no dead end to this. Like there's next levels. There's levels that haven't even been discovered yet.
Yes.
And I think that's, with a barber, that's a huge part of that, because the time that you invest that's the return that you get a lot of times.
You're talking in a town of 80,000 people, you're making 110,000.
Wow.
I mean, the Tri-Cities total have about, I think the whole area, including Southwest Virginia, all that area, has about close to 500,000 people.
Plenty of heads to cut too.
Plenty of hairs to cut.
Yeah.
In these little towns here and there. You know what I mean? But Kingsport, Bristol, Greenville, Johnson City, it's about 250.
I think in the county that I'm in is like 30,000.
That's what I'm saying. With all those counties up there in Southwest Virginia and East Tennessee, that's about 450, 500,000 people. And that's within an hour, hour and a half radius.
It's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. But most people think you'd have to be in a city of like 1.5 million, 2 million people to make that money. You just have to build relationship.
Right.
You have to understand. You have to invest in yourself. You have to put in what you expect to get out. And you have to understand your why. Why am I doing this? Why am I going to school to be a master barber? Because to me, people who just don't invest in themselves and go to school and don't give their all, they're like basic barbers. They're like regular barbers.
And I can't attest to that, man. Like I just can't see anything besides going forward 100 miles an hour, like running straight at the wall. And that's how I've been for a while now. And I can't even imagine wanting to halfway do anything. Like and I say that on this podcast all the time, and I'm not. I know I say it, but I really feel like that. And
Disordered everything.
I know, and I do feel like still, and sometimes I feel like I want to rush things. I want things to happen now. But the more I do it, the more patience I have, and the more I could see. And when you get that attitude that things are going to happen, if you go ahead and sow your seeds, it's going to happen eventually. It might not be exactly when you want it to happen, but it will happen eventually.
And all students get frustrated. Everyone in any type of learning process they are in, they get frustrated. Even a welder gets frustrated. Even a car mechanic going to school gets frustrated. A baseball player who started in baseball, he's in AAA or he's in AA. He's frustrated because he's seeing this guy came in a AA with him who was just raking the ball, and they promoted him, but he didn't get promoted.
Yeah, and he's already in the league or something. Yeah.
I think that's all the more reason to, invest more time. Or if there's something that you feel you get frustrated because you're not the best at or good at,
Try to figure
and you
it
just
out.
feel like giving up, it's all the more reason to invest the more time to make that part better.
For sure. But it's just some type of notion out there in our industry that we're the only ones who are going through certain things. And I think that could be some of the lost respect that we get from our industry, because we have a lot of people who don't treat it like the craft that it is.
And there is a bit of ego in it too as well. But that's another thing why it's important to go to school and to have a good community in a school so people can talk about, hey, I'm going through this. Wow, that's crazy. This is what I'm dealing with. And that person be like, oh, man, if you're doing with that, I could do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this person's coming every day. So you should share, going to school and being in that community and fellowshipping with your fellow students and instructors is important, because everybody's dealing with something. There's not a single person in this world that is not being afflicted by anything. So it's important to have that community.
Excuses are the tools of incompetence, which build monuments into nothingness. And a person who uses them will be seldomly good at nothing else.
That clip I got of you saying that was dope, because you had the glasses on with the light beaming on you.
Yeah.
I was going to post it, but I'm going to give it to Craig and let him post it.
Well, give it to Clay.
Yeah, I'll send it to Clay.
Yeah.
But I thought that was dope. We get that one. Like you had the stunner shades on with the light behind you.
The stunner shades.
Yes, sir.
Did you see them?
I hadn't seen that.
I didn't.
Show me.
I put it on my story, but I'm going to send it to Clayton and let him post it.
Yep. I mean, but think about it. People who make excuses about why they can't give their all for their craft, for something that you love, how do you expect it to develop into something great?
The part that sticks out to me is we'll seldom be good at anything else, because that's what they do. The people that make excuses, they do that throughout their whole life.
Right.
They don't just do it. It's not the first time they did it. People that make excuses do it all the time. And if you come to them about a problem, what are they going to do? They're going to make excuses, and you can almost count on that.
Right.
But the people that really are successful, they don't make excuses. They might let you know what they got going on,
Right.
but they handle it. And those are the ones that are going to be successful.
I mean, and again, don't get us wrong. We're not saying that life doesn't happen. There's so many life situations that happen that you can't control. But what you can't control, be good at it.
Yeah.
Be better at it. Give your all at it. And don't make excuses for it. What you can control, don't make excuses for it. Because we can't get back that time when we make excuses for something that we can control. That time you can't get that time back.
Just wasting it.
Because that time you missed out on school, you left early. Hey, your platform artist guy that you love might be dropping into the school, and you missed out on it. The day you didn't want to get out of bed to be at school at 8:30, and just something as simple as maybe there might be breakfast for everybody at the school, and you might be into breakfast. Or there might be something that the bank come by wanting to do something for the students, and you missed out on that.
Yeah, the students are famous for that kind of stuff too. Like Craig would bring a cake in and pizza, and they'd be like, they don't come to school that day. They'd be like, of course he does it when I'm not here. You hear that all the time.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That's all the more reason for them not to want to miss it.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's one that comes to mind that I've heard like firsthand. Like, oh, of course he does it. I wasn't here, because you didn't show up. That's your fault.
That's your fault. And again, I'm not saying don't keep a job. I love people who keeps jobs. Because that's just teaching you that's what life's about. Life is about obstacles. There's going to be obstacles throughout life when we have the job that we want. And we have to be able to navigate around those obstacles. We got to.
Yeah.
Because one thing about life that's constant is change. So we have to prepare for the change when it comes and be able to deal with it. But if we can control it, as simple as just coming to school on time, being prepared, control that. That is your career. That's what you want to do. You want to be the best at something. Because everybody want to reap the benefits. Everybody wants the glory.
Everyone wants the glam.
Everybody wants the glam, the glory of something that they starting. But
What did Rick Ross say? What do you say to quote? You wasn't with me shooting in the gym.
oh yeah, he wasn't with me shooting in the gym.
Everybody watched Kobe when he was in the championship, but nobody watched Kobe at 3 a.m., 2 a.m. shooting around, working out, running around, sweating. Nobody saw that Kobe.
And you had stories of like the NBA players right now talking about when they went out clubbing and they went kicking it, and they coming back to go to bed for practice at 9 o'clock, and they come in at 6 o'clock. And Kobe's already coming up with a sweat working out in the gym and preparing for practice at 9. Mm-hmm. And that's why he was a killer.
That's what made him the best. That's the difference. But people don't see that. They don't televise that. They only hear about that. And that's just the same with all these barbers. Like any barber that you think might be successful, you don't see the work that went in behind the scenes to get to that point. And nothing's ever handed. Like you just don't get it given to you, especially in this industry. Nobody can make you good at cutting hair. Right. You have to put the time in to be good at cutting hair.
And not only put the time in school, you have to put the time in out of school too. So when you come to school, something that you've been having a hard time with in school, that you worked on it outside. So when you come to school, you can just replicate that right away.
Yeah, putting the reps in.
That's it. I mean, it's that simple.
I remember when I first when I figured out shear over comb that I figured out how to see when I came up in a barber shop that they did everything they could do with clippers.
Right.
So initially that's what I did. But when I got to the point that I wanted to learn shears, I found out that when you don't shear over comb, you're only supposed to open the shear with your thumb.
Right.
When you use shears. I didn't know that. So I remember I would take my scissors with me to like the restaurant. My shears. I would take my shears around with me to restaurants, and I would just practice opening my thumb.
Yep.
I mean, and people would think I was crazy, and the people that I work with thought I was crazy, but that's what I would do. And now,
especially in your area, like,
yeah, they definitely thought I was crazy.
You got a sharp object, and you're not cooking. You just
just walk around with shears.
At the dinner table, like, man, this dude,
Edward Scissorhands.
This dude is going mad up there, and he got some type of issues. What's up? But your wife said she saw it firsthand, and you can appreciate when you see someone putting in that work.
Right.
And then when they get it, you be like, hey, you did that.
Yeah, and that's what I've told him. He's wanted to open his own shop, and he was patient and, invested a lot of time to be able to do that. And, last week he was just like, I'm just so happy to be in my own shop.
You did that.
And, he did that.
Yeah.
And then the investment of going to the school and teaching also taught me how to deal with different personalities, which I think long term will help me, in running a shop and having barbers in there. And I think that's another thing that I learned and invested in.
Yeah, you did that. Shout out to Feed Spot again for giving us a top 25 ranking in this industry of podcasting with barber content. Top 25 in the world. Also top 25 in the United States, which is big. Big. What do you think about that, Em?
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, top 25 in the U.S. What are our top five countries, am I?
We got the United States,
of course,
Canada,
UK,
England, and we have, I guess, the United Kingdom. And then we have Iceland.
Yeah, so U.S. and Great Britain.
The UK.
Yeah, UK, the U.S., UK, Canada,
Iceland.
And the other, what's that? Australia.
Australia. Yeah, I forgot about Australia. Shout out to Australia if you're listening.
Yeah, big shout out.
I'm to Australia.
Big ups. We're going to have to go there and check it out and let them people know, do a live show in person.
That'd be crazy.
That'd be
on
dope.
The beach of Australia. Us, you doing something. You doing a podcast in Sydney on the beach.
Hey, man.
We out there.
What a great white coming at you.
Yeah. I only say Sydney because I don't know nowhere else in Australia. That's it. Come on, geographical genius.
I don't
You ain't got nothing.
Outback.
Out back.
There you go. Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, Outback. I mean, hey, Australia is more than that. It's a beautiful country. I look at it a lot of times on Instagram and on Google. It's a beautiful country. It's a lot of species of animals, though. For one, I know that.
Sure.
But your favorite spot? We gotta go, Ammi.
Madagascar.
We gotta go
There
there.
are mad animals in Madagascar.
Yes, sir. But as this podcast comes to an end, because all things got to come to an end. What is one thing that you think about what was said in this podcast? What hits you hard, Emily? What do you hear from this podcast? What have you heard?
That if you take the time to invest in yourself, then and be patient, then you can reap the benefits of that.
Yeah, and the important thing, like you said, be patient because it's a process. Nothing's gonna happen overnight,
Right.
and if it happens overnight, it's not sustainable most times.
Right.
What do you think, Ammi?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, if you get it all at one time, like my dad went to UVA art school and was discouraged because of his, he felt like his talents lacked that of some of his students.
It's just ironic. Everybody, when they're doing some type of development in something they're learning, they always get discouraged. But it's okay.
Yeah, and he went to his professor and he's like, man, I feel bad, man. I ain't doing the work that these people are doing. The professor said, once you're at the top, the only place you got to go is down. He's like, you got nothing but room to cover. You just got, you can continue to go up. You got plenty of growth to go.
And the people who he's looking at and that he's thinking that their work is top notch, they're probably thinking the same thing. Man, my work needs to be a little bit better. They comparing themselves to Van Gogh.
Monet.
So everybody's going to compare themselves to someone above them. And it's okay. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't fall in that trap and think that it's going to be your last step, your last stop.
Just focus on yourself and your growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because everyone grows at a different pace, at a different rate. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Right, Z?
He's eating his shirt right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, this podcast was so great and wonderful because there's so many excuses that we hear students come up with. And it all boils down to, what is your why? Do you want this bad enough? And understand it's not a sacrifice. It's an investment.
And all of you that are afraid to get on the podcast, I want you to know that we had to convince my wife to get on here. And, it's really not that bad, is it?
Not too bad.
It's not bad. And so if you want to be on a podcast, if it's something you're interested in, reach out to us and we try to get you on.
And my guy June out there in Cali, Barber June, we're going to get you on here in a couple of weeks. We're working on some things in the studio to get tighten up some things, but we're going to Zoom you in, brother, and looking forward to hearing your opinion and what you got to say about this industry. Again, shout out to Barber College Success, brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cutz Academy, JC, and Crown Cutz Academy, Bristol, and Craig's Crown Cutz, downtown JC. For the casual observers out there, we're working on our merch. We're gonna have some merch set up on our website. We're gonna have some dope merch for you guys. Again, but you can enroll at our schools in Bristol, Virginia, or Johnson City, Tennessee, the first Tuesday of every month. In Bristol, Virginia, we have 4 programs. We have the cosmetology, we have the manicuring, aesthetics, and barbering. We also offer financial aid, Pell Grant, and subsidized loans. In Johnson City, likewise, we open school. We have open enrollment the first Tuesday of every month, and we do have financial planning for you guys to get into school. So if it's something that you're thinking about, something that you want to do, hit us up, let us know. Give us a call. Check us out on our Facebook, our Instagram, or on our website, Crown Cutz Academy JC or Crown Cutz Academy Bristol. And again, keep sharing and liking our Barber College podcast. We love our fans. We love the people who just give us great reviews. Because it's for you why we do what we do. And we spend some time, and we love coming on our podcast. We look forward to doing this thing because we love it.
Every week.
Yeah, we love it. Why do you like the podcast, Ammi?
Just breaks up the week. You get in the monotony of cutting hair and working in the shop or doing whatever you're doing, working at school or whatever. It's good to have a nice break. Come in here and hang out with Mitch and have shout out to Mitch and to be able to have a good conversation or or fellowship with other barbers that come in here to tell your story, I think that's my favorite part, honestly.
And just giving information, dropping gems, dropping jewels, letting people earn the crown, let them know, hey, we all in this industry and it's a brotherhood and we love you guys.
And as you grow, we grow.
Yes, sir. It's big. Shout out. Peace. Peace.